Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, obviously dramatic news yesterday. President Trump now has shaken up his cabinet for the first time in his second term, and it is Kristi Noem, not Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, who has essentially been fired as Secretary of Homeland Security. To be, completely fair and accurate, she is out as Secretary of Homeland Security, as the head of DHS. However, Trump, to save face, especially for her, because for all of her flaws, or perceived or alleged flaws, she has been very loyal. She was very loyal to Trump, very loyal to MAGA, very loyal to the administration. And so he basically gave her another position as the special envoy to deal with the cartels, the drug cartels in the Western Hemisphere. She'll be working with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, to go after and continue to crack down and hammer the cartels. But let's be honest. Yes, you can call it a reassignment, but it's a demotion. And for all intents and purposes, she was fired. And many of you may ask, Jeff, how do you feel about the firing of Kristi Noem? Well, first, let me say this. Mark Wayne Mullen, I think, is a superb replacement. I'm not worried at all that somehow with her successor, should he be confirmed, because this still has to go through the Senate, he probably likely will, although the Democrats say they will fight him tooth and nail. It is going to be all-out war to get Mullen confirmed, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Mullen is MAGA. He is very loyal to Trump. Trump was asking for a viable, good, strong replacement. Many senators, members of Congress, people on his staff said, go with Mullen. He's smart. He's competent. He's a worker. He's got excellent executive experience. He owns a construction company and has been, running that company for a long time before he became a member of Congress. You can't go wrong with Mullen. And, of course, he's loyal to the president, not just on practically every issue, but especially on securing the border, on deporting illegal aliens, and on his crackdown on crime. So Mullen, I believe, will do a fantastic job. Unlike many in MAGA, not all, but many in MAGA and in the conservative movement, who are now all piling on and dumping on Kristi Noem, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'll give you the reasons why she was let go, and I think ultimately Trump had no choice. I think clearly she made mistakes, and she compounded those mistakes, and I think in the end Trump almost had no choice. But I'm going to say this about Kristi Noem, because she was loyal to Trump, she was loyal to MAGA, and she was loyal to the mission that Trump entrusted her with regarding immigration, the border, and illegal aliens. Kristi Noem did a very good job. In fact, she did a great job as Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm sorry, I have to call it the way I see it. Look at her record, just over 1 year in office, objectively. Just stand back. She secured the entire southern border. In fact, we now have the most secure southern border in the history of the United States. This was all under Noem's leadership. And not just the most secure border, but over the last 11 months, this is something unheard of. Not a single illegal alien crossed the border. Not one. Not one. On top of that, she helped to deport over 3 million illegal aliens. She was part of an aggressive DHS campaign to go after terrorists. They arrested over 1,500 known terrorists. In fact, she's cracked down so hard on illegal immigration that for the first time, listen to this, since 1950, this is an amazing stat, we have net negative migration. Meaning, for the first time since 1950, okay, this is, well, what is that, 76 years ago, okay, basically almost, what is it, over 75 years, 3/4 of a century. We have more people leaving the United States in total than coming into the United States in total. So I'm sorry. She did an excellent job as Secretary of Homeland Security. And all of these fake conservatives and all of these Monday morning quarterbacks who are taking pot shot after pot shot after pot shot, and they're poo-pooing her accomplishments at DHS are not being genuine or truthful. I'm sorry, they're not. She did a fantastic job. Now, what got her undone? What was her ultimate, what sealed her fate? What finally got her, what was her undoing? Her problem was she was a very good governor of South Dakota. Trump obviously appointed her, and she was confirmed to be DHS secretary. But somewhere along the way, the fame got to her head. And she went Hollywood, as they say. It became more and more about her. Now, the first problem Trump had, and this was something that's been brewing now for months, she apparently brought a lot of drama with her, a lot of infighting. Apparently, she and Tom Homan were at loggerheads constantly over how to implement these mass deportations. She kept squabbling with the heads of ICE and the heads of FEMA and other agencies within DHS. And after a while, as Trump aides have now confessed, as they've now told people, Trump just got tired of the constant drama, that she was a bit of a drama queen, and he doesn't like that. Run your department, run it smooth, run it without issues, run it without constant infighting. In other words, be a manager and manage. She was not a very good manager, let's put it, to put it mildly, when she was running DHS. So that was a problem. But that's not what ultimately got her undone. What got her undone and sealed her fate were two things. She authorized a $220 million campaign ad whereby she herself basically starred in the ad. Now remember, $200 million is basically a Hollywood blockbuster movie in terms of the funding. And this was for an ad that ran on TV channels all across the country, telling illegal aliens to get out of the United States and self-deport. And if they don't self-deport, then they're going to be deported. And if they're going to be deported, they're never going to be allowed to come back in again. The problem was, first of all, it was exorbitantly, ridiculously expensive. You see her constantly with the makeup, and I mean Hollywood-style makeup. She had to have a cowboy hat. She was riding a horse. It was filmed in front of Mount Rushmore. In other words, it was all about her, promoting her. Obviously, she wanted to come across as glamorous as possible, and she was now using funds to promote herself, to promote her profile within the administration, because she was hoping in the future she wants to be Attorney General. She may want even a higher position, somewhere, maybe even, maybe even, as I said, Attorney General, or maybe Secretary of State, should Marco Rubio decide to step down, or Secretary of War. So she was there to cultivate her image and augment her profile. Trump was livid. But what really got him to the boiling point was when, under oath, she did 2 hearings this week. One was in front of the Senate, and the other one was in front of the House. In front of the Senate hearings, it was Republicans, not just Democrats, who went after Kristi Noem for this $220 million campaign ad. And when pressed over and over again, who gave the final approval? Because this was a waste of money, and as Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana told her, this was all about promoting you. This really didn't do much to advance the mission of DHS, and it was a colossal waste of cash, of taxpayer funds. She said President Trump gave the authorization. She lied. Okay, Kristi Noem now out at DHS. Probably Senator Markwayne Mullin is in. Trump has now tapped him to be her replacement. He still has to go through Senate confirmation. He should have the votes. But as I said in my opening monologue, the Democrats are getting ready for war. They are going to use it to spotlight their hysteria, their hatred for ICE. And remember, we're still in the midst of a DHS shutdown. DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, is in shutdown mode. So Markwayne Mullin is going to go through confirmation hearings to be the secretary of a department that the Democrats are refusing to fund. And they're going to want to extract a lot of concessions from him on how ICE can operate when they try to arrest, detain, and deport illegal aliens as the price for funding DHS. So it is, they're going to have to work hard, and it's going to be pitched battles to try to get him through confirmation. I think he will, but this is going to be no cakewalk. I guarantee you that. So what ultimately brought down Kristi Noem? As I mentioned just before we went to break, she did a campaign ad. It cost $220 million. It was controversial at the time. She got basically a Hollywood-style producer, whatever you want to call it. So it starred her. It was about illegals, and it ran on many stations, many channels, and, telling illegals, you better leave. You leave now. You self-deport. You'll be able to come back. But if we catch you and we deport you, you're never going to be able to come back again. But what surprised everybody, the cost for, to run a simple DHS ad, we're looking at $220 million. As I told you, that's a Hollywood blockbuster movie. Maybe you spend $200 million to make. Okay, this was a 60-second commercial, a 60-second spot. So it was a real, perceived anyway, certainly by Trump, as a massive waste of taxpayer money. But it starred her. She's in a cowboy hat. She looks extremely glamorous. They had Hollywood experts come in and, do the whole makeup. And she's riding a horse. She's in front of Mount Rushmore. And what happened was that Republicans began to turn on her. And so in that disastrous Senate hearing, and this was on Tuesday, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, Republican, started to go after Noem about the cost of the ad, the ineffectiveness of the ad, the waste of taxpayer dollars. And then he kept trying to pin her down, saying, for an expenditure of this size, you're going to tell me that President Trump authorized this? Is that what you're trying to tell me? That he was okay with this? And she said, in other words, he was basically saying, look, you did this on your own. And she said, no. President Trump knew. President Trump okayed it. He gave it the green light. Now, according to Trump, immediately after that hearing, and he's told this now to many people, he was so upset, his blood was boiling, and he did an interview with Reuters almost immediately after the hearing, and he basically called Kristi Noem a liar. What he said specifically was, Kristi Noem has now lied to Congress. I never authorized that $220 million campaign ad. What she said was not true. How dare she try to blame me for her for her debacle and her mistake. So now she crossed Trump. She crossed Trump. She lied, and she tried to make it seem like the disaster or this mistake was his and not hers. Listen now to the exchange between Senator John Kennedy and then DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. This was at the Senate hearing on Tuesday. Roll cut 24, Mike.
You have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently.
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
And Trump said she lied. And when I say he blew his top, he exploded. And it was that night. Now, this is Tuesday night. Okay, this is Tuesday in the afternoon. And now Tuesday night, he's telling aides, I'm going to fire her. I don't want to do it right away. I'm going to fire her. And he was already then asking people who'd be a good replacement. And Senator Mark Wayne Mullen kept coming up over and over again. But this is the final straw. So now she's done. Basically, in Trump's eyes, she's done. But now she goes in front of the House committee the following day. And the Democrats now, and they want to get her. Make no mistake about it. The Dems, as I speak to you now, the media and the Democrats are dancing on Kristi Noem's political grave. Or they think it's her political grave. Because I don't think it is, but I'm going to get to that later. So now they're going in for the kill. And let's put it this way. It is the worst kept secret in Washington, D.C. that she and Corey Lewandowski, you remember him, he was Trump's first campaign manager. We've had him on the show a few times. He kind of fights with Trump and makes up with Trump, fights with Trump, makes up with Trump. Anyway, an advisor. She had made Corey basically her de facto chief of staff. So she was working with Corey. It was basically Corey and Noem who were running DHS. Well, it's an open secret. They've been having an affair. They're both married. Okay, by the way, Larry messaged me on Messenger, and he makes the point, Jeff, and he's almost laughing, but, a Super Bowl ad costs $10 million. How the hell do you make a $220 million, 60-second ad regarding illegals? I mean, But anyway, the point is, it was extremely expensive. It was taxpayer funding, but it was promoting her. I mean, there's no question it was promoting her. So that got the president angry. But then, when she lied to Congress, essentially, misled Congress, however you want to call it, and said, Trump authorized it. No, he was the one that told me, go ahead, do it. And Trump didn't. That's when he felt utterly crossed. He was angry. He said, no. You're not going to try to blame me for your mistake. And that's when he said she's done. Now, he was going to wait a while. He wanted to take time. He didn't want to push her out gently or whatever. Instead, the next day, she compounded her mistake. She went in front of the House Oversight Committee, and this was on Wednesday. So in the Senate on Tuesday, now she's in front of the House. And now the Democrats smell blood. In fact, everybody smelled blood. It was an open secret that Trump wanted her out. He was going to oust her. It was only a question of time. And so they went for the jugular. As I said, it's been widely known that Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski were having an affair. In fact, many people within the Department of Homeland Security were complaining about this for a year, that they wouldn't even hide it in front of the staff. To give you an example, Kristi Noem was flying around on a $70 million jet that was being leased by DHS. She wanted to buy it, but there was a private bedroom cabin in the back of the plane. And so as she's flying to meetings and junkets and conferences around the country, staffers are saying you can hear her and Corey in the back of the plane. Let's put it this way. I mean, they're rocking it there. Okay, they're rocking the back of the plane. Okay, let's just put it that way. And so they were saying they weren't even trying to hide it. It was open. It was shameless. And that she then brought on board Corey as a special government employee, who, by the way, gets no salary. But essentially, he was running DHS along with her. He was running personnel. He was running policy. He was making decisions. Apparently, he was mistreating staff. They said she was mistreating staff as well, yelling, barking orders. In other words, the two of them were making a nuisance of themselves within DHS. And so the Democrats went after her. Now, she knew she was in trouble. She had gotten word. Corey is very well plugged into the White House. President was very angry. She was now fighting for her job. So what she ended up doing is she ended up bringing her husband, Brian Noem, to the hearing. And they have been married for 34 years. They have children. And so she thought, well, here's my husband standing by her woman. Standing by his woman, standing by his wife. And this would give them more of a solid front. The Democrats didn't stop. They didn't care. In front of her husband, it was question after question after question. Here's just one of the questions they kept asking. Have you had a sexual relationship with Corey Lewandowski? And what got Trump very angry was that she was unable to handle the question about the affair. Roll cut 24A, Mike. 24B. Go ahead, Mike.
He is unqualified, which again has left my constituents and I wondering why he is your top official. So, Secretary Noem, at any time during your tenure as Director of Department of Homeland Security, have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming
and
my
ma'am,
time.
one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
So reclaiming
and
my
is an
time,
advisor,
Secretary, it is okay for you to be
no
offended
authority
by
to
the
be
question.
making any
it is
decisions.
okay for you to
has
be
no
offended
authority
by the
to
question.
And on and on. Now, they kept coming. The Democrats didn't let up. A Democrat from Florida, Moskovitz is his last name, came out and said, look, it's a simple yes or no, okay? Just yes or no. Have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski? Just say no and the issue goes away. Well, of course, she couldn't say no. And then she went on again. This is sensationalist tabloid garbage. It's beneath us, blah, 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 blah. So the point is she couldn't deal with the question, and it was becoming an increasing distraction. In fact, all they did was ask her about Corey, and she just couldn't put the issue to rest. Why? Because A, she is sleeping with the guy. She can't deny it. There were so many freaking witnesses. And she's got the husband right behind her. So what's she going to do? In front of the husband say, yeah, forgive me, I'm sleeping with the staff? I'm banging my de facto chief of staff. We're rocking the bedroom cabin in the back of the DHS plane. So she just kept trying to avoid it and avoid it and avoid it and deflect and deflect and deflect. And the whole thing turned into an absolute circus. Now, she had multiple problems because it's not just unseemly to be, sleeping and having an open. Remember, he's married, she's married. But technically, that's her employee. He's her subordinate. So she's sleeping with the help. Now, to be fair to her and to Corey, Trump knew about their affair for many years. Everybody knows it's been an open secret. But he felt as long as you keep it hush-hush, fine. But when she decided to bring Corey Lewandowski with her into DHS, and then they still carry on like this, it's reckless. It's reckless. It's a conflict of interest. And it angered, alienated, upset many people at DHS who said it was clearly unprofessional. So those two together, bang, bang, the campaign ad and the affair, and her inability to settle and answer the question, to settle the issue and answer the question, Trump said she's got to go now. Now, a lot of people are saying she wasn't fired. Okay, no, she wasn't fired. She's been reassigned. She's going to be a special envoy, Western Hemisphere, to deal with the drug cartels. But let's not kid each other. That's a serious demotion. Or let me tell you how it works. At the Washington Times, here's what we called it: kicking somebody upstairs. If you want to get rid of somebody, but without losing face, what the managers would do is they would create some kind of a fancy title with a salary and say, no, the person's being quote unquote promoted. When in reality, you're taking them out of a real powerful position in the newsroom, kicking them somewhere upstairs where they're never seen again. They have almost no power, no consequence. And after a year or two, bye-bye, and they let that person go. So effectively what they did with Kristi Noem is, she's going to be running this over Marco Rubio, who she has to work with, over Pete Hegseth, who she has to work with. So no, give her title special envoy, keep her on salary, and she's got political ambitions. Because as I said on an X post yesterday, this may all work out for the best. Because she's still very popular in South Dakota. Whatever her flaws, she is a true MAGA loyalist. And John Thune is up for re-election in 2028. He's from South Dakota. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so to bring the whole thing full circle, because Noem now has essentially been, pushed out of the DHS, Mark Wayne Mullen is expected, obviously, to be confirmed to be the next DHS secretary. Trump says he wants this done by March 31st, so the end of this month. Yes, she's still special envoy, or she will be officially special envoy for the Western Hemisphere regarding their program to take out the drug cartels. This now gives Kristi Noem the opportunity, the freedom, to primary John Thune, who, as you know, is from South Dakota, Senate Majority Leader, who is sitting on the SAVE Act. As I speak to you now, he is refusing to move and pass the SAVE Act. He is a corrupt rhino shill. He doesn't want to pass it, which is maybe the most important piece of legislation of this century, which would, for the most part, prevent Democrats from being able to engage in voter fraud. It's the ultimate game changer when it comes to elections. And yet Thune is sitting on it. And frankly, many of us have had enough with him. Clearly, he's there to try to undermine Trump's agenda, and he doesn't want to get the SAVE Act passed. Who's paying him? I don't know. I mean, I want you to think about this. 95% of Republicans support it. And and not only do they support it, but they say it's the most important legislation of the last 25 years. 83% of the country supports it. And this guy still won't do whatever it takes to get it passed? You know, as I said, I want to know who's paying him. Kristi Noem now, very popular two-term governor from South Dakota, beloved in South Dakota, even to this day, because she was a damn good governor. She's MAGA. She's very loyal to Trump. She's now got some really good international experience under her belt. I think she'd make a phenomenal senator. She's much more popular in South Dakota among Republicans than John Thune is. I guarantee you that. Well, this now frees her up to primary Thune. He's up for re-election in 2028. And, if I was giving advice to Kristi Noem, I'd say, you know what? Start running your campaign now. Start raising money. Start making speeches. Go back to South Dakota. If you can, patch things up with your husband. And, and start going all over the state. Because I believe that she can primary him and she can defeat him. And then South Dakota being a red state, she would easily win election to the Senate, and we'd have another MAGA senator that Trump and the movement can count on. So there could be a silver lining in all of this for Kristi Noem. 617-266-6868, just my opinion. Okay, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Did Trump make the right decision in letting go Kristi Noem, in firing her from being DHS secretary? Was he right to get rid of her as DHS secretary? A, yes. B, no. Do you support Trump's decision to get rid of Kristi Noem? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and was I active on X last night? My handle there, all one word, KUA, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Let's go to Eddie in Charlestown. Eddie, thanks for holding and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure,
Hello?
Eddie. Go ahead.
Yes. Couple of things I want to talk about. It's not surprising. Many of these politicians that are elected to go to Washington, they go for a few things: money, power, fame, and extramarital affairs. It's been done. It's history. It's going to continue. It doesn't surprise me. But many of them, not all of them, but many of them. And second of all, I want to make this point stress, and I tried calling the other day, and I couldn't get through. And it ties in with what the president said during his State of the Union address. I'm a disabled American veteran. I have a lot of issues that I want to get resolved with the veterans, and I tried calling. I won't mention his name because maybe they'll try to sue me or whatever. But this guy, I called his congressman. He's running for United States Senator against Markey. I called his office for a year and a half. No answer, no sit down, not a cup of coffee. I turn on the news, and he's parading around with a legal immigrant. So finally, I called his office again. I'm upset. I get his Veterans Liaison representative on the phone. And I give him a piece of my mind, and I say, listen, I've been calling his office, trying to get him. I have suggestions for veterans, for homeless people. I have some ideas. I'd like to see him pass some bills in that way, and I expressed it to him. They stonewall me. They don't do nothing. I see him with the illegal immigrant on the news parading around, so I give him a piece of my mind, and I say, how dare he ignore me, a citizen, a taxpayer, and parade around with the illegal immigrant. And the Veterans Liaison said, oh, you're picking on an illegal immigrant. I'm like, yeah, I am. Because just like the president said, stand up if you are for the American people, or sit down if you're for a legal immigrant. And this candidate proved the president's point. And I want everybody to know this, okay? And if they vote for this guy, and I'm not in favor of Markey because he's the ice cream man, but at least Markey, too busy eating ice cream, at least he can't really hurt us that much. But this guy that gets in, and he's a veteran, and he's a disappointing veteran, because I thought there was some brotherhood with veterans. And at the end, they just hung up on me, and they didn't do nothing.
Well, there you go. They hung up on you. Look, Eddie, and that's what makes my blood boil, okay? That's what really gets me upset. Because, you're right. They do put illegal aliens before American citizens and American veterans. And American vets, especially disabled American vets, should be number one in line, the first in line, the first of the first. And instead, you're being treated, the last of the last. And that's what's wrong. I'll be honest with you. That's what's wrong with the Democratic Party. That's what's wrong with this entire state. That's what's wrong with every blue state. That's what's wrong with many of these disgusting rhino Republicans. And look, this is the one thing. This is why I said, look, I'm not going to throw her under the bus. Look, Mark Wayne Mullen, I'm telling you, is going to be an excellent pick. Okay, he's going to be a great replacement. So, I'm not saying she was great and he's going to be horrible. No, I think he's going to do very well, very well. But she took care of the vets. Look, I'll tell you this, she didn't prioritize illegal aliens. In fact, one of the reasons why Tom Homan had issues with Kristi Noem is he thought she was too aggressive in going after illegal aliens. He wanted her to prioritize more the violent criminals, the murderers, the gangbangers. And yeah, she prioritized them, but she was saying, no, if we do a raid and we catch illegals there as well, on top of the people that we're targeting, we're rounding them up as well. We're not going to put illegal aliens at the front of the line. Like, she took her mission very seriously. And she was the one that's saying, no, the days of illegal aliens, coming first are over. And so that's why part of me is very sorry to see her go. Because say what you want about her for all her flaws, and she should not have done the campaign ad, certainly not without Trump's express approval. And I'm sorry, she shouldn't be carrying around. You shouldn't be cheating on your husband or your wife. Okay, so both of them, to me, have to look in the mirror. But that's their business, not my business. Okay, that's their personal thing. But if you're going to do it, and I think this was Trump's point, well, for God's sake, have some discretion. I mean, in other words, like, come on, man. You ever heard of a hotel? Or, just as they say, keep it on the down low. But, I mean, you're making it so obvious in front of the staff. And, in the back of the plane, like, what is wrong with you? Like, what are you guys, 16? Like, you can't control yourselves? She's a 54-year-old woman. I don't know how old he is, but, the point is, like, come on. And you bring him with you into the Department of Homeland Security? And you basically allow him to run the department along with her? So, I'm sorry, you're bringing your lover and de facto making him the chief of staff? Well, what do you think is going to happen? Of course you're going to get a lot of resentment and pushback. Of course you're going to have people say, what is this? Like, who is this guy to give us orders, i.e. Corey Lewandowski? So, I'm sorry. I mean, she shouldn't, she didn't help herself. Let's put it that way. So, no, I think she made mistakes. I think there's no question she made mistakes. But that's not the issue now. The issue is the way she treated illegals. And when it came to illegals, she was great. And I'm just sorry, Eddie. I really am. I'm sorry. Because vets deserve better. Disabled vets deserve a hell of a lot better. And we Americans deserve better. Why? What have illegals done to deserve all this, the health care and the free food and the food stamps and, and all of this government money and government benefits and welfare checks and free housing? What have they done to deserve this? Hell, they don't even pay taxes. So you come into our country illegally, you break our laws, you commit further identity fraud and all kinds of other crimes, and we give you benefits at the expense of our own citizens, of our own vets, of our own disabled vets. And then when you call up a Republican who you figure, well, okay, at least, we could maybe get some sympathy from him. No, typical rhino. He's not interested. Because rhinos are Republicans in name only. They're basically Democrats who just stick an R next to them. That's it. That's it. The Democrats are at least open about being Democrats. The rhinos are closet Democrats. So they actually lie to your face. So that's why I've always said, Eddie, don't vote for a rhino. It's not worth it. Then just stay home. Blank the ballot. If it's a choice between a Democrat and a rhino, don't waste your time. Don't waste your vote. Anyway, Eddie, I'm very sorry to hear that, and thank you very much for that call. And above all, thank you for your service. Okay? I love you in a non-sexual way, and I know most of Kuhner country does. We love you, vets. 617-266-6868. Okay, Kristi Noem out. Mark Wayne Mullins, senator from Oklahoma, is in. Good move on the part of Trump. Bad move on the part of Trump. Agree, disagree. Tommy in West Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Yeah, no, he had to remove her. I liked it first when she started doing the radio ads about if you're an illegal alien, we'll fly you home, we'll give you $1,000, and then you can possibly come back later on. But if we catch you and you don't fill out, the website information, you're gone forever. I like that, but when I saw the ad on TV with her on the horse and the cowboy hat, it's like, Pam Bondi's bad enough with her makeovers going on Fox News. And that kind of bothered me. But, yeah, Trump had to be pragmatic. He just had to get rid of her. But, Jeff, you've taken a lot of hits over this week. Trump and, the Trump administration and Israel going after the Ayatollahs now. It's like telling a joke. Timing is everything. And they had hundreds of thousands of Iranian citizens that are fed up with that Islamic theocracy regime. And you got to strike when the time is right. And that's the bottom line. Do I want to see boots on the ground over there? No, because it would be a slaughter fest. 90 million people over there. And the big thing that Trump and the military have to do is don't bomb the hell out of this place of where collateral damage happens, because then there will be a nationalist movement within Iran of where the common people that are fed up with a government, they will feel that America is attacking them. And it's got to be done right. It's a very complicated society. We pay highly educated people in these countries to understand the different cultures, and that was the fault of the W. Bush administration. It was certainly the fault of the Biden administration with the pullout in Afghanistan. But for Christ's sakes, if Trump's people are listening, do not be extra careful not to end up blowing a hospital, a mosque, a school, anything like that. Take out the missile systems, and then, if any, I honestly, I think the best thing for the Trump administration to do is say, let the Iranian people decide what kind of government they have, because there is going to be a civil war there. And when I heard the Kurds are starting to get involved, that's a part of the country of where the Kurdish people want their own homeland. They're in 4 different countries, and it all goes back to World War I, when England and France decided to put all these artificial boundaries up in that part of the world, and it is going off case somewhat. But anyway, Jeff, keep a stiff upper lip. You could have gone national a long time ago, been on Fox News or whatever, but you would have had to sign your life away.
Well, there you go. You're dead on. I mean, Tommy, and I really appreciate your support. And no truer words were spoken. I don't like to talk about these things. I have non-disclosure agreements, so I got to be careful. You know, they ask you to sign stuff. I could have been making millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I just did not want to give away my editorial independence. And, you know, and I have to stress this to all of you. It's not just my editorial independence. You listen, I'm not singling him out. I'm just giving him as an example. Sean Hannity, every call is screened. They don't let anybody on the air that they don't want to let on the air. They ask the person, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say? And if the person is going to say something they don't want to be heard on the air, that person never gets on. If the person manages to get on, they dump that person immediately, say they go off script. So what I'm saying is, it's not just editorial independence for me, it's editorial independence for you, so that you can speak your mind. And no, what's really disappointed me, I don't want to get too off topic here. People can agree to disagree. I understand that, of course. That's what this show is all about. But to call me a woke Reich Nazi over a policy disagreement in good faith from the heart, out of what I believe are the best interests of our country. I may be wrong. I'm not claiming I know. I don't claim to have a crystal ball. I'm just saying, here is how I see it. I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. You don't have to accept it. I'm not forcing you to accept my point of view. I never have. But to try to defame me like this, professionally destroy me like this, and I've never done anything to the guy. It's the kind of intolerance, it's the kind of hatred that I thought that was the left. That's the purview of the left. That's what the left does. No, the neocons do it as well. And that's why I can't stand the neocons. Because fundamentally, they're no different than the left. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. 617, but anyway, as I like to say, let that go. I digress. 617-266-6868. Look, I think she could have even survived the campaign ad, Kristi Noem. It's when she went in front of the Senate hearing and said, no, Trump authorized it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Corey Lewandowski, just to give you the absolute latest, is now gone at the Department of Homeland Security. He is out as well. Unlike Kristi Noem, he's not going to be a special envoy to deal with drug cartels in the Western Hemisphere. Apparently, he will not be joining her in that position. I think Trump now is pretty much fed up with this affair between the two of them. Whatever, they can do what they want in private, but he doesn't want Corey anywhere near Kristi Noem in an official professional capacity. So we'll see what happens. Now, just so that you know, Corey has been a longtime friend of Trump's, first campaign manager, as I pointed out, in 2016. They've had an on-again, off-again sort of relationship. They fight, they make up, they fight, they make up. Well, apparently, when she then couldn't handle the questions about the affair, she just couldn't put it to rest. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And it was obvious, a non-answer is an answer. When it got to the point where they were humiliating her in front of her husband, saying, why can't you just say no? The Democrats. Just say no. Can you just say, if you're not sleeping with the guy, just say I'm not sleeping with the guy. And she just kept dancing and dancing, and this is, beneath me. This is tabloid journalism. This is tabloid sensationalism. This is garbage. And the poor husband's, a foot away from her, 2 feet away from her, right behind her. And he looked humiliated. I have to say, I felt extremely sorry for her husband. He looked utterly humiliated. But anyway, so he just couldn't believe how badly she handled herself. And so he said she's gone. And he was already, basically had settled on Mark Wayne Mullen. Word got back to Corey Lewandowski. So he pulled every string he could. And he said, I want to speak to the president. So apparently on Wednesday night, he met with Trump in the Oval Office. And Corey was fighting for her job, for Kristi Noem's job. And he was hoping to convince Trump to change his mind. Trump, by this point, was at the boiling point. And he had it with her on multiple levels. He had it with him. Apparently, he was involved in a lot of the drama at DHS, where he'd be screaming at pilots, screaming at staffers. Apparently, he chewed out a pilot for forgetting her favorite blanket. I'm not joking. And so this pilot was forced to go all the way back to Washington to pick up her favorite blanket, and then he had to bring it back to Kristi Noem. He went on a power trip. She went Hollywood. He went on a power trip. And apparently the conversation was over within 5 minutes. Trump was heard yelling and screaming at him and telling him to get the hell out. Get out of the office. Just get out of here. Get out and leave and don't let the door hit you on the way out. So Corey Lewandowski, at least for now, is persona non grata at the White House and in the Trump administration. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, do you think Trump made the right move? And in some ways, did he not have much of a choice? Did her mistakes, let's put it this way, essentially force Trump's hand? 617-266-6868. And what do you make of the fact that the Democrats are now gloating because she made herself the face of Trump's deportation efforts, of defending ICE, of going into these blue cities like Minneapolis? She did not give an inch. She defended ICE to the hilt. She defended deportations, mass deportations to the hilt. And so she became the poster child for the Trump administration's policy regarding deporting illegal aliens. And so the media has been gunning for her. the Democrats have been gunning for her, and even many rhinos. They were out to get her as well. And they saw an opening, and they pounced, and now she's gone. 617-266-6868. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
I disagree 100% that he fired her. For 4 years, Mayorkas lied and lied and lied. 50 million illegals came into this country. Half of them are probably terrorists. And look what our crime rate, and look what they've done to this country. Not only did she close the border, she turned around and they rescued 145,000 children. Nobody cares about that. How many people were fired during the Biden administration? Nobody. How many people fired during the Obama administration? Nobody. We went from the worst cabinet in the world in the last 4 years to the greatest cabinet that this country has ever had. And look at some of the people that were in the Biden cabinet. A transgender for the Surgeon General, and look at who was the one that was the head of the nuclear waste.
Oh, yeah, that was another one. Yeah, I know. Arthur, please, hang on. I'm up against a hard break, but I want you to finish everything what you want to say. Okay, let's go right back to Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Arthur, are you there, my friend?
Yes, Jeff.
All right, Arthur. Arthur, just before I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. You know this already. You're one of our favorite callers. Audience loves you when you come on. In fact, people react to you in real time as you speak. And so I just want to read something just to reinforce what you're saying. And this is from Marianne. She's in Florida, but she's an avid listener of the show. And here's what she writes. Good morning, Jeff. Well, good morning, Marianne. Just an opinion. As I listen to Arthur, whom, by the way, I love it when he calls in, but the reason nothing happened to Mayorkas is because he didn't serve under Trump. Trump is not going to put up with, I can't say this word on air, bullcrap, BS, whatever. Trump is not going to put up with BS. Biden not only put up with it, he invited it in. There's the difference. Just my opinion. Arthur, what do you make of Marianne's point? That obviously you're right about Mayorkas. He lied over and over again, helped to flood our country with whatever the number is, tens and tens of millions of illegal aliens, but he got away with it because he's not serving under Trump. Under Trump, as she puts it, you engage in BS, he's going to fire you or let you go or whatever, reassign you or whatever. In other words, you're gone. Under Biden, he couldn't care less. That's why Trump is a great president and Biden was a disaster. What say you, Arthur?
Yes, she is absolutely right. Mayorkas was serving Biden, who was one of the greatest traitors this country has ever known, sold us out with that immigration policy, which was a furtherance of the Obama policy. They did everything that they could to hurt this country. However, Kristi Noem was a very loyal. Your loyalty is one thing that's been important to me all my life. And loyalty, and you can't put a price tag on loyalty. And if people are loyal to you, you should be loyal to them. And now, the thing about Mayorkas was he was carrying out Biden's policy, and that was against this country. Now Trump could have easily handled this a lot better. For the longest time, he's out there every single day touting our immigration policy. The border is closed. The border is closed for the first time in 50 years. Well, guess who did that? Our Department of Homeland Security head. Well, you don't tout one thing and not and be happy about it, and then the next day fire the person. What he should have done is he should have called her in and talked about this. And she made a big mistake bringing her husband into that hearing. And the Democrats, who are responsible for the biggest scumbag, low-life sex predator, Bill Clinton, they have a nerve to turn around and go after somebody like her. I don't care that she had a sexual relationship. Dwight Eisenhower had an open sexual relationship with Kay Summersby. We didn't turn around and fire him. How about one of the greatest heroes, the greatest people in American history, Martin Luther King, had plenty of sexual discretions. I don't care about those either. I care what he did for this country. Those are things that are more important to me than them going after her for that. And the reason they go after her is because they care about what she's doing, and they hate her for her accomplishments. Trump didn't learn. As soon as he became president the first time, Obama said, "Watch out for General Flynn." Well, the minute that somebody says that to me, that's my enemy, then I know that General Flynn has to be the guy that I want to keep next to my side. And instead, he fell for the trap that Comey entrapped Flynn, and he fired him. He did he fell into the Democrats' trap, and he fired her, which he shouldn't have fired her. Now he looks like the fool to people like me and anybody who knows about what goes on in Washington. The Democrats are the biggest organized crime family ever in the history of this country. They are the reason that this country has every bad thing going on today, and it even goes back to the Civil War. They should be prosecuted under RICO for the things that they're getting away with in this country, and the slander against I could care less. I mean, I care her accomplishments, and especially what she did finding those children.
Oh, that's a great point. No, Arthur, really, that's a phenomenal point. And look, just to back up what you're saying, I mean, it was my monologue, but the numbers are really phenomenal. Like, you're right. Her record, to everybody, again, let me just, over 3 million illegals deported in a year. Over 3 million illegals gone. 145,000 missing children. You know those missing children that Biden brought in? She recovered them, or her department recovered them, but she made it a priority to recover them. The most secure border in American history. Over the last 11 months, I want you to think about this. This is unheard of. I mean, honestly, even North Korea, I'm telling you, 1 or 2 people get in or get out or whatever. Not one illegal alien has managed to cross the border in the last 11 months. That's perfection. That's a perfectly sealed border. That's almost unheard of. Over 1,500 known terrorists arrested. How many lives did she save just by going after these terrorists? And then she cracked down so hard on illegal aliens. Deportations, mass deportations, self-deportations, that for the first time since 1950, 76 years ago, we have net negative migration. I.e., instead of more people coming in, there are now actually more people leaving than coming into the country. I think she did a phenomenal job. I'm sorry. How can you argue with these numbers? The numbers are the numbers are the numbers. Now, I'm with you. You call her in and you say, look, you got to knock it off with Corey Lewandowski. Look, get him out. Look, what you do in private, I don't care. That's between you and your husband and between him and his wife. But you're bringing your lover in and it's causing all kinds of problems. No, okay? No Corey Lewandowski. That's it, okay? Period. Professionally. And this campaign ad, don't ever do it again. Don't ever do it again. And don't say I approved it when I didn't approve it. No, absolutely not. In other words, you call her out on the carpet, You know, you give her maybe a little bit of a tongue lashing, and I would have kept her. Look, Arthur, I said this yesterday. I'm going to say it again. Why was she the first cabinet secretary to be fired in the second Trump administration? If anyone had to go, it's Pam Bondi. You know, if you were to say to me, Jeff, well, who's Trump going to let go? Who's the first one that's going to be, get the axe? I'd say, I hope it's Bondi. Instead, it ended up being Kristi Noem, who, loyal to him, loyal to MAGA, loyal to the mission, delivered phenomenal results. And honestly, man, those 2 hearings killed her. Those 2 hearings killed her. And now she's gone. I mean, she's an envoy, but essentially she's going to be a non-factor in the administration. And, you make an excellent point, and I want to get to this on the other side. You are not going to believe what Democrats and many Republicans did. Okay, I got a mini story for you. And they're going after Noem and Lewandowski for their affair? The hypocrisy is so thick, you're going to choke. I'm telling you, you're going to choke. Okay, now, because of the war in Iran, obviously, many stories that would have gotten a lot of prominence they're under the radar. So a lot of big stories people are just not paying attention to or not even being reported on because it's Iran 24/7. And I get it. Our troops their lives are on the line. We're in the midst of a major regional war. So obviously other important stories are going to take a back seat. However, you need to know this. You want to talk about disgusting hypocrisy. And to be honest, if I were Noem, that's where I would have gone. Instead of doing the whole, this is beneath us, tabloid sensationalism, it's garbage, going in circles and circles, this is, to me, the attack I would have used. Nancy Mace, Congresswoman from South Carolina, she now wants to be eventually governor of South Carolina, was able to get an effort to force Congress to vote to make public all congressional sexual misconduct and harassment reports. So she was pushing an initiative in Congress in which she said, no. You guys are all going on about the Epstein files. You guys are all going on about how this is so unacceptable. We want Trump's head. We want to know. We want the answers. We're not going to protect the powerful anymore. And, of course, it's an open secret. Okay, all they do in Congress is have affairs, sexually assault people, harass people. You've got sexual predators roaming the halls. Okay, it's an open secret. So she said, fine. You guys really want transparency? You guys really want to talk about the victims of sexual harassment and sexual abuse and rape and other sexual assaults? No problem. Release all of the congressional sexual misconduct and harassment reports that right now are deliberately kept in secret. Okay? They're locked away. The public cannot access them or know anything about them. All all of the settlements, all of the agreements, all of the payoffs, everything, all of the allegations, all of the women, the men, the whole thing. Just release it. Well, in a vote in Congress, bipartisan, baby, both Democrat and Republican, on this, the uniparty was united. 357 to 65. Let me repeat that. When do you ever see a vote like this? 357 to 65. In the House of Representatives, they moved to kill Nancy Mace's resolution. No. No, no way. My sexual indiscretion. Whoa, no. That stays swept under the rug. No. That we don't report. No. That doesn't come out. What are you talking about? That we use, and by the way, they use taxpayer money to pay off the alleged victims. So it's our money. 357 to 65. What she should have said was, you're going on about me and Corey Lewandowski? How many of you voted for that resolution to be killed? Most of you are having affairs. Most of you are cheating on your spouses. Most of you. Right here. Right here. You're casting stones. Yet all of you are doing the very thing you're trying to accuse me, and not just accuse me, attack me for. And you voted for a resolution to prevent the truth from coming out. You phony, you frauds, you. Had she went on that line of attack, it would have been, I think, a very different result. So the point is, this is how hypocritical they are. Now, furthermore, because, I'm going on about, of everyone, of the first person to go in the Trump cabinet, it's got to be Kristi Noem. And I'm like, well, why not useless Pam Bondi? So here it is. This is another story. Big story. No one's even heard about it, or very few have. Why? Because of the war in Iran. Remember the Biden auto pen scandal? All those pardons, all those executive orders, all those executive actions that they, basically faked his signature. And this cabal, this Politburo of radical leftists. And that's how they opened up the border. And that's how they brought in all these, tens of millions of illegal aliens. That's how they signed every single crazy DEI initiative. Okay, on and on. How they systematically wrecked the country. Well, guess what? The auto pen investigation has now been shelved by Bondi's Department of Justice. Quietly, no fanfare. They don't want people to know. But Pam Bondi is now saying, forget about it. Nah, we can't really make a case. We're not trying to make a case. So no one is going to go to jail. Trump himself said it's one of the greatest scandals in the history of the United States. And he's right. You had a mentally, physically incapacitated president. Okay? Let's be honest, a senile buffoon. And people around him were making decisions on his behalf using his fake signature to ram through some of the most destructive policies this country has ever seen, including opening our country up to a massive invasion from the third world. And how many people, the damage it's done, women raped, children molested, people murdered, drugs coming in, gangs coming in, criminals coming in unprecedented numbers. And now the Biden auto pen scandal, she won't go after anybody? Nobody? James Comer, who did all the heavy lifting, remember he was bringing in all these people, all these Biden aides, and they were all admitting, we used the auto pen. Well, yeah, why? Because he's never around. Biden was in Rehoboth Beach. Biden is napping. Biden's not up before 10. He calls a lid by noon. We can't run a government like this, so we're signing on his behalf. And Pam Bondi can't get you one low-level aide, not one. That's why, like I said on X, I called her useless Bondi. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm not excusing what Kristi Noem did. I'm not saying she didn't cross the president. I'm not saying she didn't make mistakes, of course. And maybe Trump in the end had no choice. Okay. But I'm sorry. I listed you the accomplishments of Kristi Noem. I'm just stating the facts. Everything she achieved on the border, with the missing children, with terrorists, arresting them, with deportations. And what has Pam Bondi delivered? Not one arrest. Not one Democrat. Not one deep state criminal. Who the hell has gone to jail? Who the hell has even been charged? And she's still sitting in the Justice Department? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. If anybody should have been kicked out first, it should have been useless Bondi. Am I wrong? Now, one more. Okay, one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. Pace yourself for this. Again, hat tip to Nancy Mace, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace blew the whistle yesterday. She wanted a congressional subpoena to be issued for Ilhan Omar's immigration records. And not just her records, the records of the brother that she married. In other words, she said, if you're all serious on the Republican side that this woman committed immigration fraud, which she did, marriage fraud, which she did, and at least in theory, incest, which she did, which could then revoke her naturalization citizenship. Okay, she could be denaturalized. She could lose her citizenship because she's a naturalized citizen, and you can then deport her back to Somalia. She said, all you got to do is just subpoena the records. You know who blocked her? This is what Nancy Mace said. She said, I'm going to shock you. The people that led, of course, the Democrats opposed her, but the people that led the charge and blocked the subpoena effort and cut her off, the Republican leadership. The Republicans. She said, by the way, some of the very same ones who run to Newsmax or run to Fox News and say that Ilhan Omar should lose her citizenship and be deported to Somalia because she married her brother or she came to this country under false pretenses, which she did. You know, and they go on Jesse Waters or Laura Ingraham or Brett Baer or Sean Howard. You know, Sean, I'm sorry, she's got to be denaturalized. She has to be deported, Sean. We have no choice. They blocked Nancy Mace. You phony, you frauds, you. It's kabuki theater. It's like what someone said, it's professional wrestling. You know, it's like the two parties. Okay, so I'm going to hit you over the head with a chair, and then you get up and you body slam me, okay? Yeah. And so I say this to you, and then you say this to me, and of course we get the crowd all riled up. You know, and then I jump on you, and then you jump on me, and in the end, you make money, I make money, and let's have a beer afterwards. And shake hands in the locker room. And Nancy Mace says, hey, look, they're just playing games. They're going on about the Epstein files. They don't give a damn about sex abuse victims. Many of them are perpetrating them themselves. They're going on about a cover-up regarding Epstein. They're covering up their own sexual misconduct. They won't even release their own complaints. And again, people who are paid off with our money, not their money, our money. And now you want to, expose Ilhan Omar for the liar and the fraud that she is? And no, we're not going to touch her. No, we're not touching her records. That's going to remain under seal. So I look at Kristi Noem from that lens, And I'm like, okay, she's cheating with Corey. You're all cheating. She lied, I guess, under oath. My God, all you people do is lie. All Mayorkas did was lie under oath again and again and again and again. Okay, she burned through $200 million. I'm not excusing that. Please don't get me wrong. But, I mean, they're burning through trillions. And I'm like, and she's the one that gets kicked out? She's the one the media and the Democrats are obsessed with destroying? And I'll tell you why. Because she was effective. Notice they're not calling for Bondi's head. No one's calling for Bondi's head. I mean, we are. But I'm talking about the media and the Democrats. Why? Because she doesn't do anything. She's not a threat. But Kristi Noem, whatever you think about her, okay, and she shouldn't have done the ad with the hat and the horse and the whole cowboy. And, you know, she's a bit of a narcissist. As I said, she went Hollywood, okay? The fame kind of got to her head a bit. Okay. But what they saw were the results. And under Kristi Noem, millions of illegals out. Terrorists arrested. 45,000 missing children were found. Net migration negative. More people leaving than coming in. She was willing to go to war against the sanctuary cities and sanctuary jurisdictions. Remember, she did all of this in the face of relentless opposition from the far left judges, from Democrat mayors, from the entire Democrat Party, and from the entire media. So I'll be honest with you. I'd rather the headline today be Pam Bondi out, Mark Wayne Mullen in as the head of DOJ. I'm telling you, he'd be an infinitely better attorney general than Pam Bondi. My son Ashton would be a better AG than Pam Bondi. My Ashton would put criminals in jail. I'm telling you, he would. And on that note, I'm already past 8 o'clock. You know what that means on a Friday? Caller of the week, Kuhner's Call Log.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Ken.
This is a cost-benefit analysis deal, and the cost of letting things continue as they were was way too high compared to the benefit of dealing with reality. And the reality right now is the mullahs have to go. Because they're a bunch of Islamic punks. And the punks got their comeuppance. And it was about time. And now we just see it play out. Now, is it going to turn out just the way we'd like to see? We don't have any votes. I certainly hope. No, I don't want any votes. But we're hearing about the Kurds, aren't we? Yeah, there's an alliance between the northern Iraq Kurds and the northern Iran Kurds who tended to be warring with each other, but now they're coming together. Well, something may play out good here. And the bottom line, remember, what we want is no more of this punk terrorism crap going all over the world, including threatening the president twice with his life. That's over. I so thank the president and all his administration and all they've done this past week. I wish the best for them.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Bomb, 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 Iran. Mike, where did you get that song? Mike, nice job, man. That was a good find there, Mike. So, Mike is the one who picks the caller of the week. As you know, I had my candidate. I said that yesterday. It was Bill who called in and regarding me and Mark Levin. But anyway, the moment I said, Mike, this guy's the caller of the week, I'm like, I just jinxed him. I just know, because if I said go with this guy, Mike's going to go with someone else. I just should have kept my mouth shut. But anyway, again, to the callers, another incredible week. Really superb week. And, I love it when the callers disagree with me because you give the other side and you give it so well and so eloquently and you're so articulate. And so anyway, I keep saying this over and over again, but the callers truly make this show very special. 617, as I say, best audience in the business. 617-266-6868. Okay, speaking of callers, lines are loaded. Annie on the South Shore. Thanks for holding, Annie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. And can I say that Mark Levin has no idea what he's up against. Kuhner Country doesn't like what he did. I would watch Mark Levin, but I have a different outlook on him right now. I'm tired of people attacking people and saying things because it's going to make them feel good. That's the world that we're living in right now. The reason why I really wanted to call in, Jeff, is Kristi Noem was good. She did what she did until she lied. Not only did she lie, but she lied about the president knowing it when he said he did not. Had it been somebody else, maybe it would have been a little bit easier for her to, push it under the rug. She chose to have an affair. Who in Washington does not have an affair? Would somebody raise their hand? I don't see any hands. I don't, and I'm sick and tired of taxpayers' money being used for all this crap. That fund that's in there should be removed. I'm not going to pay for somebody to have an affair and then pay them off. I'd like it in my bank account earning interest. Well, I'd like a little bit more interest. But let me, the real reason that I called, Jeff, is I was sitting and I was listening to you talk about Kristi Noem and running, for office, for Senate. Against Thune. I can't stand Thune, never liked Thune. He's useless, and people need to get on their phone, and they need to just break the lines. This has got to stop. These people are there to work for us, not us work for them, number one. But Kristi, how is she going to go about starting a campaign? They're going to take her down big time. She lied. She's an adulteress, so now you want her to run for Senate, and you're going to vote for that? I mean, we know there's corruption, Jeff. We know that there's, sexual innuendos with everybody, in there. So how is she going to go about doing that?
Well, Anna, I have to say, Annie, that's a very good point. I mean, she's MAGA. MAGA is very popular, as you know, in South Dakota, and she was a very popular two-term governor. But it is a socially conservative state. You make a very good point. Okay, Kristi Noem now out at DHS. My question to you, do you support Trump's decision? Do you think in some ways he had no choice? And are you with me on this one? What's keeping Pam Bondi up? How is this woman professionally still standing? How is she still the Attorney General? And yet, Kristi Noem, whatever you think of her and what she did, with a really good, strong track record of success. So, Kristi Noem is a special envoy, and Pam Bondi is still running the Justice Department. I don't know. 617-266-6868. Okay. Jeffrey in Boston. Thanks for holding, Jeffrey. And welcome.
How are you, Jeff? Always a pleasure, sir.
I love your name, by the way. You got a great name.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you for all of your shows, all of your insights. Each and every show is incredible. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for those warm words. What's on your mind, my friend?
So I feel that President Trump, he made a major error in firing Secretary Noem. She was a warrior. She was loyal, and sadly, you have now have these sewer rats like Adam Schiff, Raskin, and Chuck Schumer, and all of the media celebrating this. So now they know anytime that they don't want somebody that is effective and who's a true MAGA warrior. They will conspire with all of the rhinos to get these people out. Of course, I feel if there is a person that should be terminated, it's Pam Bondi. She is ineffective, soft, and also incredibly weak, along with Todd Blanche. But I just hope and pray that Mark Wayne Mullen is as strong as Secretary Noem, and that's my honest opinion, sir.
Oh, you make excellent points. Really, you're absolutely spot on. And Jeffrey, look, I can just tell you this. I mean, again, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future. But when Trump was, when he made up his mind, he said she's going to go. And this was just a couple days ago. He said, I'm done. She's going to go. And he started to ask people right away. They kept saying Mark Wayne Mullen. So apparently, he's conducted himself very well at hearings. He's a true Trump loyalist. He's very loyal to Trump. He's a MAGA guy all the way. He comes from Oklahoma, which is a very red state, but he ran a construction company. He's been, in Congress, I believe, 10 years in the House, 3 years in the Senate. And so when Trump was asking, I really want someone that's going to be very strong and committed to the mission that I want regarding, securing the border, deporting illegal aliens, cracking down on criminals and terrorists, who's somebody that I can really count on, who's a rock. And they all said, listen, he's a likable guy. He can work with people. They say he's very smart. The thing about him is, I don't know if you've ever seen him, Jeffrey. He's a former undefeated professional MMA fighter, mixed martial arts. He's like, those guys that fights in the cage. The guy is built like a tank. I mean, he's huge. And I guess he still works out or whatever because, his arms, his shoulders, he looks like he could be a lineman in the NFL and he's got that Oklahoma swagger. He's got a cowboy hat. So he almost looks the part. You could see him with that, DHS jacket or ice jacket or whatever at one of these raids with his cowboy hat on, and the size of this guy, and former MMA fighter. And you're like, yeah, you don't want to mess with that guy. So he almost looks the part. And look, you can tell by the Democrats' reaction that they fear he's going to be effective because they've already said they're going to continue to block funding for DHS. So the shutdown for DHS continues. So even though they got what they wanted, they got Noem out, which is what they were calling for, they're still going to block and defund DHS, even if they have Mark Wayne Mullen, and they don't want to confirm him. It's going to be World War III, all-out warfare. They're going to do everything in their power to try to block Mullen from being confirmed. Now, there is J.D. Vance in reserve. There are 53 Republicans. Apparently, John Fetterman said he will vote for Mark Wayne Mullen, but every other Democrat has said they will oppose him tooth and nail. And I don't know, Tom Tillis, that rhino who's retiring this year from North Carolina, he may want to stick it to Trump and vote against him. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, can you really count on them? So I think he's going to get through. Okay, the fact now that Kristi Noem will no longer be DHS secretary, that Mark Wayne Mullen now is going to be a replacement, and hopefully will be confirmed by the end of the month. That is Trump's plan. You would think that would satiate the Democrats and their bloodlust. Quite the opposite. Having tasted blood, now they want more. And so, listen now to this. As you know, she obviously was DHS secretary when we had the ICE raids in Minneapolis. where, over 1,400, 1,500 violent illegal alien criminals were arrested, detained, and deported despite massive resistance from the mayor, from the governor, Tim Tampon Walz, and of course from these crazed and many of them paid anti-ICE activists. And of course it led to the shootings, the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. The left, the Democrats, the media blame Kristi Noem for the deaths of Preddy and Renee Good. Not Alex Preddy, not Renee Good, who were both involved in illegal behavior and were deliberately obstructing and impeding law enforcement in a legitimate law enforcement operation. No, 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 no. Don't blame the criminals and the domestic terrorists. Blame law enforcement, and in particular the head of law enforcement, who was simply enforcing American law, immigration law. Okay? But let that go. They want Noem to pay for what happened in Minneapolis, and in particular, they want her to be indicted, charged, arrested, and I swear to you, convicted for murder. 2 counts regarding Preddy and Renee Good. Listen now to Tampon Tim, Governor Tim Walz, on MS Now, saying Kristi Noem, even though she's out at DHS, should be spending a lot more time in Minnesota. Roll cut 25A, Mike.
That former Secretary Noem should probably get used to spending more time in Minnesota, because I have a pretty good feeling in the future she may be doing that, because we have got to get accountability. We need to know the people who are involved in this.
Okay, so he's asked to explain even more. Well, whoa. When you say she should expect to spend more time in Minnesota, what exactly do you mean? Well, he's basically saying we're going to arrest her. We are going to arrest her for the murder of Preddy and for the murder of Renee Good, and we're going to put her on trial, and we want to, put her in jail and throw away the key. We're going to lock her up. Roll cut 25. Mike.
When you say she should expect to spend more time in Minnesota, what do you mean by that? Tell people watching what you mean by that.
Well, look, our folks are going to be looking into each and every one of these incidents that happened. We're going to want answers. Who gave the orders to do this? Who said that these folks could do that? Why within 20 minutes before understanding what happened, she found the need to slander Minnesotans, American citizens? Why did they not retract that? And why were Minnesota investigators at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension not allowed to be on these scenes? Where's the evidence? We need the evidence to do this. And I know both County Attorney Moriarty, I know Attorney General Ellison. People are looking for accountability. That's what the system is. This isn't, as Donald Trump is. He came here on retribution. We're not looking for retribution. We're looking for justice. Right. And we're looking to make sure that no one's above the law. So Kristi Noem, it sure seems to me there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, what about you? You crook, you. There were hearings, by the way. Again, that got lost in the whole Iran war saturation news coverage. Both Walz and Ellison were up on Capitol Hill testifying about the Minnesota fraud scandal. And it came out, again, even more damning evidence. They were up to their eyeballs in that fraud scandal. They enabled it. They aided and abetted it. They knew about it. They turned a blind eye to it. They encouraged it. They encouraged it. $9 billion in the Somali community alone. $19 billion that we know of in total and counting. And you're going to put Kristi Noem in jail? You disgusting, seriously, you disgusting left-wing hack. And so, what are you going to put her in jail for? No, really, I'm sorry, what? That what, it's okay now to try to ram and run over a law enforcement officer? That's okay now? You what, a law enforcement officer supposed to say, okay, run me over, kill me? Doesn't have the right to self-defense? So when officers are making an arrest, some crazy anti-ICE leftist activist like that guy Preddy, what, he's allowed to come with a loaded gun and literally try to break up an officer, prevent an officer from making a legitimate arrest? And then when he's arrested himself, as he's trying to break up a legitimate arrest, he can what, resist arrest with a loaded gun? And what? So you're going to put her in jail for what? For doing her job? For enforcing the law? Now, this is my fear. I hope to God that Pam Bondi has her back. I hope to God that she has her back. That she has Kristi Noem's back. Because if they allow this, if they allow a prosecution and the indictment of Kristi Noem, I am telling you, you can kiss deportations goodbye. Who the hell would be willing to stick their neck out and implement a policy of mass deportations when the left can then have paid activists impede, engage in naked terrorism and naked criminal activities to try to get a reaction from some kind of an ICE agent, and if there's a shooting, another shooting, God forbid, you end up going to jail? What? If she goes to prison over this, you think Mark Wayne Mullen wants to be DHS secretary? Or if he's going to be DHS secretary, what, aggressively go in and start deporting people? Because if something goes bad, suddenly I could go to jail? To me, this is unbelievable. Honestly, it's unbelievable. Now, to show you, this is not just Tampon Tim flapping his mouth. Or Keith Ellison, going on about how we're going to go after Kristi Noem. No. This is the Democratic Party. These are congressional Democrats who said, no, we're not satisfied, not even close. You can throw her under the bus. We want more. Listen now. This is Congresswoman, obviously Democrat, Becca Balint, in an interview saying, Kristi Noem, she's got to go to jail. Just because she's no longer running DHS. Don't think we think we're going to let her off the hook. She's going to pay for what happened in Minneapolis because we're going to set an example. You come into blue cities, you come into blue states, and you think you're going to round up criminal illegal aliens? You got another thing coming. Roll cut 26, a mic.
Is she going to escape accountability, or are you still going to pursue it?
No, I think we need to pursue it. And I think we need to keep all the receipts from all of these people, whether it's Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi. I mean, that's what Americans need to hear from us. It's not just that through the midterms and the next presidential that we will rid these people from public office, but we have to hold them accountable for their crimes. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about crimes of corruption, but we're also talking in the case of Renee Good, Alex Preddy, and others who lost their lives because you had Border Patrol and ICE Patrol agents under her direction violating people's human rights, their constitutional rights, and we do need to continue to hold them accountable. And so that was a really important point that I wanted to make, that just because you leave office doesn't mean all of this goes away.
There you go. There you go. By the way, what human rights, what constitutional rights were violated? No, what they're saying is you can't arrest criminal illegal aliens. That's what they're saying. They're untouchable. Okay, I don't normally do this. As you know, I usually give the poll question only once. I mean, once in a while. Occasionally I'll give it twice, but I gave it once earlier today. I'd like to ask it again, and I'll tell you why. Because the audience is split on this. And it's roughly 2/3 are supporting Trump, saying it's the right decision. to get rid of Kristi Noem at DHS, but a third of you are saying, no, it was a mistake. So I'd like to ask all of you again. It is the poll question, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Was President Trump right to fire DHS Secretary Kristi Noem? A, yes. B, no. I'd love to get your take on this. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN is in National ER. And Jeff, why do you always spell your freaking last name? Today I'm getting emails. Dear Mr. Kuhner, Kuhner. Or I also get very often Kuner. I'm like, how many times do I have to spell it? Kuhner. So that's why I keep repeating the spelling over and over again. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are on fire. Tony in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
How are you?
Hi, Tony.
Hey, I want to consider a different angle. Wasn't Corey Lewandowski, when he was first time, he was the campaign manager for Donald Trump, wasn't he let go for a sexual offense?
It wasn't a sexual offense. If you remember, he was very rough in the handling of a reporter from Breitbart. She was asking questions or coming close to Trump, and then he kind of mishandled her. In other words, he grabbed her very aggressively, shoved her. She fell a bit to the ground. Some people thought maybe she overdid it, but that he was too rough in his treatment of a Breitbart reporter. That was the reason.
Why I bring it up is I haven't ruled out that he's a male honeypot in all of this, because I do not buy that we are going to let go of Kristi Noem for any of the offenses that have been laid out. It just seems completely contrived to me. And you said, and I've called you before on this, about Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi couldn't be less effective. There's no way she could be less effective unless she's been sent there to cover these things up, as we've said before. So that situation is unchanged. She's still not doing anything. However, she's still not being made to do anything by her boss or by the bosses of who we considered her boss, the president, because he might not be making his own decisions. If he were making his own decision, and this is what I'm getting to, his most important thing he's said several times lately is to pass the SAVE Act. That's the number one thing. He will move heaven and earth to pass the SAVE Act. So can't she be a consolation prize? Can't she be cut as a method for us to get Tom Tillis, that rhino scumbag, and John Thune? These are all George Bush. George Bush is still here with his influence from the Obama, Bush, Clinton dynasty, and he is in the Senate right now, and he is preventing the SAVE Act from going. They don't want Kristi Noem, so we're going to cut Kristi Noem as a means to try to placate them and get what we want, which is what we're willing to move hell and earth for, which is the SAVE Act. I do agree with the SAVE Act. I just don't agree that Kristi Noem had to go. That's my position on this.
Look, Tom, everything what you're saying about the SAVE Act is not 100, 1,000% correct. Look, let me say this, okay? And I want to be careful because people talk to me, and I always want to protect the confidence. And if they don't authorize me to, if it's on the record, it's on the record. Then I'll tell people. But if it's off the record, or what they call on background, then it stays on background. But I'm not breaking any confidences when I say this. Republicans in this state, okay, when this is before Amy Carnevale became the state GOP chair, because now they're just throwing in the towel. Okay, now their job is just to take a dive. But before, when they were serious about trying to go after Elizabeth Warren, trying to go after Maura Healey the first time, in other words, to at least get a fight with, take the fight to the Democrats, they said, let's bring Corey Lewandowski on board. Okay? Just trust me. What I'm telling you, take this to the bank. And so they brought Corey, because Corey's a fighter. Corey helped manage Trump's first campaign. He's been successful giving advice to other campaigns around the country. And, he's not a rhino. Okay? Corey Lewandowski's MAGA, and he's not afraid to take the fight to the Democrats. He's also from Massachusetts. So he knows the state very well. He knows a lot of the players very well. And so conservatives in the Republican Party here in Massachusetts said, let's get Corey, let's get him on as a kind of advisor, as a consultant, whatever, and he can be a real good source of ideas and strategy, and let's finally give the Democrats a run for their money. And out of the blue, and, he was being paid. Everything was fine. It's not because he wasn't paid. He was paid. He met in strategy sessions. We were starting to get some real momentum. And all of a sudden, he quit. He said, I'm done. Done. Here, don't pay me anymore. Tear up the contract. I'm done. Why? Because he ran back to South Dakota. And he was all in with Kristi Noem. I mean, all in. That was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He got rid of all of his other clients. He lost a ton of money. I'm telling you, a ton of money. Now, let me put my cards on the table. It was very obvious that they were having an affair. It was an open secret. There had been numerous witnesses. This has been going on for years. And how do I say this? He's now acting like almost a husband, okay, a lover, not a political consultant. Look, my wife needs something, I drop everything. Well, it's going to cost you a ton of money. I don't care. My wife comes first, okay? That was the attitude he was taking. Remember, he's married. He's got children. I was shocked. Frankly, I was disgusted. And then at the 2024 convention in Wisconsin, let me be even more frank with all of you, we had Corey on the air. I ran into Corey. We spoke privately. There were other members of Congress. I don't want to mention their name. Some of them came on my show. They spoke with Corey privately in front of me. Okay, this was all, we're all talking. It was shameless. It was shameless. The way he and Kristi Noem were carrying on. To the point, and if you noticed, ever since then, I've never had him on again. And I'll tell you why, okay? I said that this kind of a scandal, if it comes out, could do tremendous damage to Trump's reelection campaign in 2024. Because Corey was there, he was still an advisor to Trump. Kristi Noem had spoken at the convention. She was promised a high-level cabinet position. So this could be a scandal that the Democrats and the media could use to badly damage Trump in what I'm telling you was the most important election in the history of the United States. I don't care what anybody says to me. I know some people are not fully happy with Trump. I get it. But to me, there is no choice between Trump and Kamala. Had Kamala won in 2024, we would have become a communist socialist country. We would have become Venezuela. It would have been over. Good night, Irene. We're done. Trump saved America when he won in 2024. And to me, my mission was to get Trump reelected. I did everything in my human power to get him elected. And when I saw, and I'm going to be very candid with all of you, okay? Like I'm with my, my Grace, my wife and my kids in the living room. The way those two were carrying on, I said, I'm sorry, you're selfish. I don't care. It's your business. You want who you sleep with, but to be so flagrant and open about it. No discretion, no privacy. I don't care. You want to go to a motel, hotel, whatever, that's your business. But when you're doing it so obviously, like, come on, there, everybody's got a phone. Click. There it is. No, I'm sorry. Now you're jeopardizing the future of our nation. You're jeopardizing potentially Trump winning. So I was very angry at both of them, and I was especially angry at Corey. And I said, I don't want this guy on my show anymore. That's it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I lost respect for him. Okay? If you want to know the truth, I lost respect for him. And I'm the kind of guy, when I lose respect for someone, it doesn't matter. It's done. It's over. I'll be polite. I'll be courteous. I'll say hi, of course. But if I don't respect you, I don't respect you. That's it. It's gone. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning all of this, it goes to your point about Pam Bondi. I believe she's the worst cabinet member in Trump's administration. Okay? No matter how unhappy I was with Kristi Noem, and no matter how much I fault her for this affair with Corey Lewandowski and the way it was conducted, I'm sorry. She was very competent. I'll tell you this. Yeah, they could make jokes about her and Corey in the cabin in the back of the plane, but this woman was working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Kristi Noem was burning the midnight oil. That woman was working. Everybody said this. Even her worst enemy said, look, I can't stand her. Actually, they refer to her as a bee, okay? Just so that you know. I can't stand the bee, but the bee works. Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter. Long hours, late nights. She's working. So what I'm saying is she was loyal to the president, and she was loyal to the agenda. And she was serious about deporting illegal aliens. I look at someone like Pam Bondi. Here, what I just, talked about an hour ago. Quietly dropping the investigation, any prosecutions of anyone involved in the Biden auto pen scandal. She's stabbing us in the back. It's crime after crime after crime after crime. And to me, there's got to be a certain point where we say enough. Because we're going to run out of time and they're all going to get away with it. And Tony, I'm telling you, that's my big fear. And one of the reasons why Trump was elected, wasn't the number one reason, I get it, but it was a key reason. Come on, let's all be honest. We want these criminal Democrats who committed crimes to go to jail. We want the people, the deep state criminals, who, forget crimes against Trump, but crimes against us. They stole an election, man. They framed the president as an agent of Russia. I'm telling you that they probably tried to have him killed. That's why I want everything regarding Butler, Pennsylvania declassified. I want to know, did our FBI or rogue elements try to get, and Secret Service, did they try to get our president assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania? And this woman, I don't know what she does all day. Like, I'm just being honest with you. I don't know what she does all day. Now, did Noem, with the makeup, and is she a bit of a narcissist, and she does all these photo ops holding machine guns, and yeah, she went Hollywood. I get it. But the woman was a worker. And the woman, she put a lot of terrorists in prison. She deported a ton of illegals. I mean, say what you want. She took on the media again and again. She went toe-to-toe with Tim Walz. She didn't back down. Toe-to-toe with Jacob Fry. She didn't back down. She took on the Democrats over and over. No. In fact, that's the point. The criticism of her was she's too aggressive with the mass deportations. Holman didn't like that. If you want the truth, I'm telling you the truth. Holman said, be more targeted. It's too much. You're too sweeping. Just only the criminals, the most violent, the worst of the worst. And she was saying, no, I'm MAGA. I mean, yeah, we're going to focus on the murderers, the gangbangers, the rapists, of course. But hey, we do a sweep of a home or an area, and we happen to run into illegals. I'm grabbing them too. So I'm sorry. I'm not here to just toe a line. I'm here to tell you honestly the evidence, the truth as I see it. Now, I understand Trump's point. Look, you can't lie under oath, and you can't cross your boss. And more than that, it's the answer that she gave when she basically blamed Trump without blaming him, but saying, well, no, he authorized that big, that $220 million campaign ad. Hey, don't criticize me. That was Trump. And Trump's like, what? I never even heard of it. Now it's suddenly my fault? Well, you can't do that. Leave aside politics. You can't do it in any business environment. Whatever, at your job, you do something that's controversial or maybe a mistake or whatever, a waste of money or, whatever. And then you're being called for it and they're saying, well, hey, whoa, who authorized this? You're like, well, my boss did, but the boss didn't. Well, what's the boss going to say? You're trying to pass the buck on to me? No. You're out. You're out. Or whatever. You're going to be disciplined. So, yeah, I get Trump. Obviously, I get his point of view. But I'm sorry. Context is everything. I look at what Mayorkas did as DHS secretary. Destruction, lying, under oath, crime after crime. Nothing happened to him. Bill Clinton raped women. Raped them. Joe Biden digitally raped Tara Reid. He sexually violated and abused his own daughter. Okay, she admits it in her own diary. I could go on and on about, everybody throwing stones at Kristi Noem with her affair with Corey Lewandowski. And I'm a one-woman guy. You know that. Okay? I only have eyes for my wonderful wife. But, so, I'm not justifying an affair. But what I'm saying is, hey, come on. You're all doing it and suddenly you're condemning her? Get lost. Come on, get lost. It's like you're in a whorehouse. Literally, you're in a bordello. And they're pointing at you saying, hey, you're here with a guy who's not your husband. Well, and what are you? Like, who are you? Who are you to call me a slut? Or who are you to call me a gigolo? Like, you run this freaking bordello. So, again, look, just look at him. We've got him dead to rights in crime, the most serious crimes. I'm talking treason, stealing elections, abuse of power, violation of national security. And they're going to put Kristi Noem in jail over doing her job. They're salivating to put her behind bars. And then they're saying, we're going after Stephen Miller, and we're even going to go after Pam Bondi, the one who does nothing. In other words, we're arresting half of Trump's cabinet. Now, how come our side doesn't fight like that? Now, they're going after innocent people. I just want us to go after the guilty ones. That's my problem with Pam Bondi. And I don't think people realize that Democrats are serious as a heart attack. When they come back to power, what you saw what they did to Trump and to Steve Bannon and to Peter Navarro and all these other people they put in jail, they're going to start coming after many more Republicans, many more Trump supporters. So either you either you fight him now or you fight him later. And you really don't want to fight him later. Trust me. Not when they have the whip hand. Vince in Long Island. Thanks for holding, Vince, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff, fellow Paisan. How you doing?
Vince, my friend, how are you?
I have 2 points to make, so I hope Mike doesn't cut me off. I'm really sick and tired of all these affairs. I mean, people really need to control themselves. Are they savages? I mean, don't they have the discipline? We have a disciplined military that goes out there and dies for the country, and you can't conduct a little bit of discipline not to be a lowlife, especially in a position of importance. And the other issue I have with Noem, which I think she did a good job, but for the most part, I really didn't like the fact that she killed Rocky. That's a little thing that bothered me a little bit. You know, I'm a dog lover. And on a personal note, in commemoration of attending your wedding almost 30 years ago, happy 30th coming up. But I spoke to Grace, and she tells me that she wanted a big party, and you said she could only have a vacation of her choice, and she wants both. So I think that you should put it to an audience poll. A, vacation of her choice. B, vacation of her choice plus party. And you always claim that you married up. So marrying up has its cost, not just benefits.
No, I know. She wants both a vacation and a party. No, I know that. I'm like, sweetie, what are you trying to do? Bankrupt us? I'm like, seriously, sweetheart. Vince, I want to go back to your first point because I love that point. What is it? I just want to ask you this, and if we do get up against time, I want you to hang on because I want you to finish the answer to the question. Okay, 40 seconds. Well, there you go. So, Vince, please hang on. But this is my question to you, Vince, and to everybody. How do you carry on? This is an affair, years and years and years. And then you bring your husband. I mean, I'm not throwing stones. I'm just calling it the way I see it. Okay, I want to go right back to Vince in Long Island. Vince, look, I don't want to make this seem like, the Catholic hour, with Father Jeff. But, I talked about this a little bit with Grace last night. I don't understand this. I really don't. Okay, things are not good in your marriage. You find someone else. Then, all right. I'm not saying I approve of it. I'm just saying, okay, you get a divorce and you move on. You had an affair, but you regret it. You reconcile with your spouse. I get it. But for me, it's pretty obvious. Noem and Lewandowski have been carrying on for years, openly, flagrantly. Her husband knows. Corey's wife knows. That's the part I don't understand. In fact, she brings her husband to Washington. He's sitting, 2 feet behind her, and you can see he's humiliated in his face, on his face, as they're, grilling her about having an affair with Lewandowski, and it's obvious by her answers that she's having an affair with Lewandowski. And I'm thinking, why would you have your husband go through that? Why would you put your husband through that? And obviously, to Lewandowski, why would you put your wife through that? So what I'm asking you, Vince, is why do spouses put up with someone who's cheating on them night after night after night after night? Is it the children? Is it religious reasons? They're just so opposed to divorce that no matter how much they're humiliated, they'll stay in the marriage? I mean, I'm just curious. What's your thinking? What do you think about this, Vince? Am I the only one? I feel sorry for poor Kristi Noem's husband. And by the way, they've been married 34 years and they have children. And from everything I've read, successful guy, runs his own insurance company, wasn't crazy about her getting into politics, but she said she wanted it. He said, okay, honey, if that's what you want, I'll support you. And it's one thing to cheat on your wife and it's discreet. I mean, I'm not saying you do it, but I'm just saying, okay, it's discretion, it's private, but to do it so openly that everybody knows. And then to bring him along and almost rub his nose in it, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Vince, what's your theory?
My theory is, unlike you, Jeff, they married down. That's the problem. And, you know, there's a reason why in the military, we have a military code of conduct against adultery. It really perverts your character and your ethics. And it really disgusts me. I used to work for an accounting firm, and the partner-to-be was a woman. She was having an affair with the general partner of the firm, and everybody in the office knew about it. And her husband used to come around. It was so disgusting. And she wasn't even like hiding it or anything like that to advance her career. And like the husband was a putz, I guess he knew that everybody else also knew that his wife was, you know, screwing around with the head partner. I don't know. I don't know how people can control themselves. If they must be such sleazy people. There's always escort services that are private. I don't know why you need to bring different families and different people's lives and have this chaos and, you know, especially if there's kids involved. It's disgusting. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's the decline of the American, you know, religion that we used to have. Churchgoers are diminishing. The church has been destroyed. The fabric of America has been destroyed. Wokeism is out of control. And we have the enemies within, which are trying to destroy the moral fabric of America, plus Hollywood. So that's what we're fighting.
Vince, as always, you're always interesting. Every time you call, it's an interesting call. Vince, thank you very much for that call. Anyway, look, I don't want to get too bogged down in this. I'm just, I'm being honest with all of you. And, you know, I spoke about this with Grace over dinner last night. And she said, Jeff, you're very naive. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, you're naive. I go, what do you mean I'm naive? She said, look, if people put up with, you know, like, again, I'm not talking about a spouse that has an affair and you reconcile her. I'm talking years and years and years and years. It just goes on and on. It's like an arrangement. And she said they put up with it for all kinds of reasons. And, you know, maybe it doesn't bother them. You're assuming it bothers them. Maybe it doesn't bother them. Or you assume it bothers Corey's wife. Maybe it doesn't. That's the thing. You don't know. You think it bothers them. Because, you know, my theory is, hey, look, if you're going to humiliate me like this, if you're going to betray me like this and carry on like this, you know, week after week, month after month, year after year after year after year, I'm calling a divorce lawyer. Hasta la vista. But I guess not. 617-266-6868. Kenny in Georgia. Thanks for holding, Kenny, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ken?
Good. Yeah, I think part of Noem's problem was she didn't get ahead of the chaos that happened in Minnesota, where Holman had to come in, and then her testifying didn't help either, throwing kind of Trump under the bus. I think that was part of the reason why she was gone, too. She made it into a media spectacle, didn't get ahead of it, didn't try to control it. The other thing is, with Pam Bondi, she's not going anywhere. I think Trump is a little worried, basically from the last time he was president with Barr and the other guy from Alabama. I don't think he wants, he probably think I'm going to dance with the devil. I know. Why replace and get somebody like Barr? Because he ain't going to get anybody through the Senate that would be like a Gates or somebody strong like a Paxton. And also, the other thing is that I think is the silver lining to all this is if Paxton does bow out and because Thune will put the SAVE Act on the floor, I think that's going to help.
That's a great point. Kenny, that is a really, really important point. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. You know, we've been talking about something really interesting right now. Most retirees are choosing to stay active in different ways. Some are consulting part-time, some are working remotely, and some are even spending part of the year somewhere new while generating income digitally. And that can be exciting, but it works best when you truly understand your overall financial picture, where your income is coming from, how your plan is structured, and how much flexibility you actually have. When those pieces are clear, lifestyle choices tend to feel empowering instead of stressful. And that's exactly why I wrote my book, Retire Your Fear, Plan Your Future. It's designed to help you better understand your income sources, clarify your goals, and make thoughtful decisions before making big lifestyle changes. If you'd like a complimentary copy, you can call us or email Kelly at kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I'll continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or visit our website for the Radio Rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of that guide, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, Kelly at kellyfinancial.org. That's Kelly at kellyfinancial.org. Okay, my friends, so I just want to read a couple of messages and then go right back to the phone lines because I think they make a very interesting point. This is from Charles, Jeff, on Messenger. Jeff, say what you will about Kristi Noem's husband, but honestly, I have a lot of respect for him. Most would have left a long time ago. He meant it when he said, I do, to her, for better or for worse. And that just doesn't happen in our country anymore. Charles in Florida. Charles, that is very true. That's I have to say, that is very true. Okay, this is from the text line 781. Jeff, something that you're not mentioning that needs to be said. There is a double standard in our society when it comes to spouses cheating. When a man cheats on his wife, it is considered more acceptable than when a woman cheats on her husband. And that's one of the reasons why Kristi Noem was forced out. It's okay if a man does it, but it's not okay if a woman does it. Interesting. Anyway, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, someone mentioned Ken Paxton, the SAVE Act. So, this huge developing story. As you know, there were elections this week and in these primaries. One of the biggest was in Texas, where they had three candidates vying to, two vying to challenge sitting U.S. Senator John Cornyn. He is John Thune's right-hand man. He is a rhino through and through. As I've pointed out on X, he has been an enemy of Trump's. He has tried to block Trump's appointees. He is pro-amnesty. He has tried to undermine the president again and again and again. But he is the sitting Republican U.S. Senator. Ken Paxton, by the way, Cornyn spent nearly $100 million in his primary campaign. Ken Paxton barely spent $4 million. He is the former state attorney general. He is a tough, pit bull, MAGA candidate all the way. I mean, he's hardcore MAGA. Cornyn barely beat Paxton, 41% to 40%. The other candidate, Wesley Hunt, was a distant third. Now, why is this important? In Texas, you have to win by 50. You have to have 50% plus one. So this has now triggered a runoff between the top two candidates. The election is going to be held, next month. So what's going to happen? Can Ken Paxton actually primary and defeat John Cornyn? The polls right now show Paxton would beat Cornyn. It would be very close, very tight, but Paxton would beat Cornyn, thereby knocking off a rhino, and we would have a full-throated MAGA candidate who most likely would win in November. Texas is a red state. The Democrats have put up a very weak Democrat candidate. So Ken Paxton could very easily be the next senator from Texas, and he would truly be one of ours. I mean, he's a Trump MAGA guy all the way. Trump now has come out and said he's going to make a decision. He's going to make an endorsement. And the reason is they're starting to spend so much money on this primary in Texas. It's turning into a bloodbath. And the fear is, as Cornyn and Paxton now just, go at each other's throats, this is going to eat up, their credibility and their popularity, and they're going to be squandering probably hundreds of millions of dollars. By the time they're done, it could leave an opening for the Democrats. So to prevent this primary bloodbath, Trump says, look, we can't have ourselves fighting in Texas. Texas should be an easy hold for us. We've got to try to retain our majority, and that's not by us fighting amongst ourselves in Texas. So President Trump has come out and said he's going to make a decision, and this is the key, that whoever he endorses, he wants the other candidate to then drop out of the race. If he picks Paxton, Cornyn should just drop out and it's over. He picks Cornyn, Paxton should drop out and it's over. Paxton, however, came out and then said, well, hold on now. I love Trump. I love his agenda. I want to vote to, enact his agenda. But I think it should be up to the people of Texas, in particular conservatives, Republicans, MAGA supporters. Maybe Trump endorses Cornyn and the people disagree. So we should hold the primary election no matter what, and whoever wins, wins. Trump has seen this now as an act of betrayal by Paxton. He's let it be known he's furious at Paxton. And so what looked likely a couple nights ago, which is that Trump was going to endorse Paxton because Paxton is much more on his MAGA wavelength, now people are saying for this defiance, he may actually endorse Cornyn. Here it is. Paxton now has come out and said he's willing to fall on his sword. Listen to this. Ken Paxton has said, I will drop out right now, regardless of who Trump endorses. Because remember, Cornyn is Thune's right-hand man. Thune ran to Fox News. He can't pass the SAVE Act. He doesn't have time for that. But he's got time to advocate and shill for John Cornyn to be the next senator from Texas, to try to save Cornyn's bacon. And so Ken Paxton said, I will drop out of the race if, and only if, John Thune and his number two, John Cornyn, publicly say, we are going to kill the filibuster, end it, and we are going to pass the SAVE Act. Doesn't matter if the Democrats oppose, we'll override their opposition, and no matter what, we will make the SAVE Act the law of the land to stop Democratic voter fraud and to save our country. So the question now is, will Cornyn and Thune take the deal? In other words, Paxton is saying, I'll give up any chance of winning the Senate seat, I'll give up my political ambitions in exchange for you guys ending the filibuster and finally passing the SAVE Act. All eyes now are on Texas. So anyway, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I hope Trump endorses Ken Paxton, no question about it. And we'll see if John Thune now is willing to take the deal that Paxton has now put on the table. Look, we're going to have to move mountains to get the SAVE Act passed. I think there's no question about it. It's obvious Thune and Cornyn do not want to have it passed. And the question you have to ask yourself is, why? Okay, let's go to Richard in Seekonk. Thanks for holding, Richard, and welcome.
Hello?
Richard, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Jeff. I want to get back to the Pam Bondi issue again briefly.
Yes.
And this is not a defense of her. I hope at the DOJ they're putting together a RICO case to throw the net over everyone. But I'm not particularly sanguine about our successful prosecutions with the corrupt leftist judiciary. What the heck, and I don't know the answer to this, would it take to get military tribunals?
Well, look, Richard, what you're asking a very good question. But this is the problem. She's not aggressive. Look, I'm not trying to, pile on. I'm just being honest. She's not aggressive. She's not interested in putting people in jail, high-level, high-profile people. She's afraid to do it. Now, she may be under orders. I don't know. But what I can just tell you is, the expression, if there's a will, there's a way. Look, Merrick Garland put people in jail left, right, and center. Hell, they were going to put Trump in jail on nothing, on made-up manufactured charges. They don't care. So, look, this is a reason, again, I'm bringing back to Ken Paxton for a second. Everybody's saying they want Ken Paxton to be Trump's attorney general. And obviously, if he can't be that, let him be the senator from Texas. The point is, because Paxton, when he was state attorney general in Texas, was like a buzzsaw. I mean, he's a pit bull. He'll rip your throat out. So my point is, if, personnel is policy. Famously, remember Joe Biden kept saying, I can't close the border. Remember that? And all these rhinos were saying, you got to pass legislation. You have to pass amnesty, comprehensive immigration reform. That's the only way. And Trump was like, no, just put me in the White House. I'll close it for you. Okay? Or with a good DHS secretary like Kristi Noem, don't worry, we'll shut that border down pronto. I'm telling you, I'm not saying military tribunals shouldn't be used. They should. What I'm saying is, you get a guy like Ken Paxton, and he's going to be right away, just like you. Okay, do I got to go the military tribunal route? Where do we go? Do I got to go judge shopping? Do I got to go in this district? Do I go to in this circuit? Which circuit are we going to go so we can start putting these deep state criminals in jail? In other words, you have the right guy in that kind of a powerful position. You might not get everything, but you're going to start to see people go to jail. She's completely passive. Again, useless. I don't know what this woman does all day, except, do her hair, her nails, and go to Fox News. And it's investigation after investigation. She just keeps closing everything down. So it's obvious to me it's her. Now, is there opposition among these liberal rogue judges? Yes. Is there opposition among Democrats? Yes. Am I saying it's going to be easy? No. But I got to tell you, and it breaks my heart to say this because you know how much I love the guy. Jeff Sessions, his first pick as AG, horrible. Bill Barr, horrible. Pam Bondi, horrible. I don't know what it is with picking an attorney general. I don't know what it is, but it's the one thing, it's like his Achilles heel. And Paxton is the guy that if he picked him, to me, look, What I wanted to hear was not Kristi Noem is out, Mark Wayne Mullen is in. What I wanted to hear is Pam Bondi is out and Ken Paxton is in. Final word to you, Richard.
I would love that also. But with the weak Republicans that we have in the Senate, what are the chances that Paxton's going to get confirmed? All I'm saying is this. Look at the damage the corrupt judges have already done to this country. And it's not good to be indicting these high-profile people and then having these judges blow up the cases.
Well, Richard, look, even if she indicts him, and you're right, these judges, fix the case or rig the case, how do I say this? It's still a blow. I mean, the statute of limitations is eventually going to run out. So at least then let the American people see how corrupt parts of our judiciary are. Make them sweat a little bit. Okay. Or, get some of the more mid-level people. Like anybody. Nothing. And that's the problem. She just won't go after anybody. And she's there as almost as a caretaker. And we don't need a caretaker. We need a fighter. Richard, thank you so much for that call. Mike, how much time left? Okay, I don't have time. Skippy in South Boston, I'm sorry. I only got 30 seconds left. Okay, so obviously, by the way, the escalation in the Iran war, it's going to get, the next phase, which will be even more intense. The bombing's going to get even heavier and more devastating, starts this weekend. Trump has now called for the unconditional surrender of Iran. So we're going to be watching that story. And who will Trump endorse? Paxton or Cornyn? Please let it be Paxton. Please. Cornyn is a rhino Judas. And all he's done is betray Trump.